Tonight's theme is a fairly broad-based one, isn't it, really? When we talk about social inclusivity and exclusivity, it's a very broad-based theme. We'll be, of course, looking at issues around bullying and teasing and so on. But actually, I've come to see it in two other lights over the years, really. One is that I think actually exclusion is that very subtle exclusion is a significantly more prevalent issue than out-and-out bullying. Do you know what I mean? It's just that very subtle exclusion. Girls do it better than boys. Boys are a bit more obvious about going about things. That's one piece that's changed over the years. The other piece that's changed for me over the years is trying to find a way to think about and frame my thoughts around a lot of the way children and teens now communicate with this kind of comeback culture, dissing, put-downs. And I've come to think of it, when I hear this, as a kind of minor social combat. I've really come to think of it as, you know, a kid says something and then someone says something back and then you say something back, and a lot of kids feel that's actually a way to gain popularity. The old thing about bullying being someone teasing a group of bigger boys or girls or more popular girls, teasing a physically weaker boy or girl. To some extent that still goes on, of course. But what I'm seeing more and more is this heightened level of defensive communication, of what I think of as a set of social combat. And that kind of belief that that's what you've got to do in order to maintain your status. And of course the third new player in the field, which is emerging now very strongly, is cyberbullying and online exclusory behaviour online. And the latest data in the UK from Dorothea Ross and her team is that now just over 60% of all teasing and exclusion that occurs has an online component. Right? Now, in social wrongdoing, if you blame a child who's bullying, who's picking on another, and you'll note that I say a child who's bullying, not a bully. Yes? A child who is bullying, teasing, or excluding, if you stigmatize them, what a lot of the research shows, Dan Olweus's research from the Nobel Institute in Oslo, one of the most famous researchers in this field, his breakthrough research way back in the mid to late 60s was that if you stigmatize a wrongdoer, that action, I know this sounds so obvious, but it was a breakthrough at the time in terms of academic understanding of this, is if you blame a child and you stigmatize a child for bullying and teasing, what it does is it creates a victim consciousness within that child that they then in turn can justify their bullying again. With the students here tomorrow at the school here, we called for volunteers to form a Student Social Action Committee, an SAC, Student Social Action. And there are Student Social Action Committees all around the world, but I think this is accurate, I've never been in a school where of an 8th grade, single stream 8th grade to 11th grade, there have been so many children volunteer. There have been, 50 and counting kids who volunteer to want to be in the Student Social Action Committee that will be actively involved in pro-social activities to prevent bullying, teasing and exclusion in the school. But one of the things that I'll be talking about with the kids is that in my life I have been in hard places in my life. I've worked in refugee camps, and I've seen the results of genocide up very close and tragically, personally and closely. And one of the things I'll say to the high schoolers tomorrow in 8th grade is that every time we make a put down, every time we put someone down, we diss them, we are dehumanizing them. Little bit, by little bit, by little bit, they're being dehumanized. And that is the basically, we stand on a precipice when a put down occurs to us, and something mean or kind of mean and funny occurs to us to say to another person. We stand on a precipice whether we move towards a peaceful world or towards genocide. The choice is ours, and you can look into the world and say, what can I do about those terrible things in the world? Well, you don't have to look very far. You look at your own words, the way in which you communicate and you speak to others, and if you withhold that put down, and you've even maybe gone a little further and said, wow, what's bugging me? But if you withhold that put down, then you have taken a step to a more peaceful world. One of the questions that sometimes we ask as parents and teachers, when kids are going at each other, do we step in to it and get really, and get involved? Do we step back? It's like, how far do you step in? How far do you step back? And that's a question that many parents and educators have asked over the years. Do I step back and say, well, boys will be boys, girls will be girls, they'll sort it out. We went through it when we were kids, and I'm okay. Do we step in? Do we step back? What do we do here? Now, for me, that is a non-question. With children and teens, it's not that you step in or step back. We've always got our arms around them, metaphorically. Our arms are always around our children. It's not a question of stepping in or stepping back. It's a question of holding lightly or closely. Always holding our children. The question with our response to bullying and teasing is if we hold too tightly and inappropriate, when it's not appropriate, the kids will wiggle from our grasp, metaphorically, and they think that's weird and they don't like it. If we hold too loosely, then they don't feel we're taking it seriously enough. But the question is that I hope we can start to dig into tonight is that calibrating our response to our children's social struggles, for me, is one of the first steps in having them be able to open communication channels with us and talk to us. So this humanistic way will attempt to hold the wrongdoer accountable, whilst at the same time restoring his or her place in the group. Now, we can do that with bullying and teasing. We totally can do that. The real justice that you mentioned before, that's largely gone into the criminal justice system, that whole piece. A lot of the work I've been doing with teams all over the world has been introducing this into schools. So how can we, if children are bullying and teasing and excluding another, how can we hold those kids accountable for their actions and yet not blame them, and yet not cut them out from that interconnected, that beautifully interconnected. The first base, or even batter up in this, is actually the withdrawal of blame, the withdrawing of punishing, the concept of punishing a child. So the work the school is doing here is called accountability without blame. That's the term. That's what the students will learn tomorrow. That's what we've been working with the faculty. It's holding kids accountable, but not blaming them. In fact, I firmly believe you can only have kids be truly accountable inwardly if you withdraw blame. Because if you blame them, it's human nature to then just push back and be defensive, and to not truly have the space to own what you did. The best advice for any child, if you want your child to be socially resilient, is give them a balanced life, and be very careful about this ballet on Monday, soccer on Tuesday, classes on Wednesday, some kind of music lesson on Thursday, and probably on on Friday, where are we in New York? Psychotherapy. It's aura balancing in California, but it's just too much. Yeah, it's too sexy, too fast, too young. It's too much. And one of the biggest outcomes of that is kids get involved in social difficulties. Some of you who have read the Simplicity Parenting book, this won't be new theme, but I didn't include it in the book. I've worked with kids for countless numbers of kids who have been accused of being bullies. Right? When they're accused of being bullies, what I see is this principle out of Simplicity Parenting that all kids are quirky. Yes, quirky. You know what I mean, don't you? They're all quirky. You add cumulative stress to their lives, and they slide along a spectrum, and the same thing that is their quirk can become their challenge or even their disorder. You add simplicity or balance to their lives. Not that it can't be busy sometimes, but it's balanced. And that same thing that's a challenge or even a disorder, disruptive behaviour, and even more, becomes their gift. The very same thing that is their disorder can become their gift. And if you read the book, there's studies into that. That's just a very simple way of saying it. Now here is what I mean about bullying. What we started discovering is that kids who bullied, with a long interest in neuropsychology, I noticed that, and I started looking into this, and these kids who live life at a fever pitch become like adrenaline and cortisol junkies. It's like they're really pumped, right? Now, when you're in that elevated state, Joseph Chilton Pearce, in his recent book Transcendent Biology, names this beautifully. He said, when you're in that elevated state and you feel you are under attack, you are not safe, you are under attack, and then you look out into your pack, because when you're under attack like that, your animal instincts kick in. This is not new. I think most of us could accept that. A lower instinct of survival or fight or flight kicks in, right? Now, when you're under attack, and you look out to you, and you're a little 3rd grade boy or a 10th grade girl or whatever, and you look out to the kids in your class, and you see some kids that are vulnerable, there they are, they're vulnerable. They're more sensitive, they may be physically weaker, emotionally more sensitive, and you look at them and you feel you're under attack. The brain, the amygdala, tells you one thing. The ancient brain, it says vulnerability, weakness, cut them down and cut them out.